Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great day today. Welcome to our first M Talks. It's an extension of Miratech's M Force, where startup innovation meets enterprise transformation. Today, we'd like to welcome Travis Parr, board advisor and investor in GuardDog Solutions. Securing a remote workforce is the title of our event today. Let me introduce Travis a little bit. He's a leader in the venture capital business for the past 21 years with a diversified set of investments in healthcare and artificial intelligence. Travis began his career at Chrysler's Space Division, and from 1982 to 1988, he was a pioneer in artificial intelligence at Allen Test Products, using AI for analysis, diagnostic testing, and providing additional overall solutions. Throughout the 1990s, Travis was president of various software companies until he began his VC business. Today, he sits on multiple boards and is actively involved in his investments in behavioral health care, diabetes, and
pharmacogenomics.
Got me on that one. Pharmacogenomics testing and e-commerce companies. In 2016, Travis was YPO Network Man of the Year. Out of 24,000 CEOs globally, he attended Vanderbilt University and received an MBA from Emory. Travis lives in New Orleans with his wife, Peggy, and dog, Gumbo. He is a leader and Sunday school teacher at the Rain Memorial Methodist Church. Today, we'll talk with Travis about his latest venture, GuardDog Solutions, an extremely disruptive cybersecurity AI-driven plug-and-play device. It's really the first in the industry which proactively prevents ransomware, malware, hacking at both the enterprise level and remotely. Good morning, Travis, and welcome.
Good morning, Michael. Glad to be here.
It's really a pleasure. So let me start you off with just the first question. How did it all get started here, and what problem are you solving that the market currently does not offer?
Well, the problem, let's go there first, okay? The problem today, and our timing is great because of remote workers being so much more trendy and available, but the problem is a couple of different things. First of all, in the upstream, downstream data and information that flows from a remote worker back to the enterprise, we're exposed, or people are exposed to hacking and ransomware and all kinds of things. It's very easy to enter people because they're largely unprotected. The second part of that as well is we now have all these AI devices that we coined a phrase called edge territory. So the edge devices on a territory could be everything from your smartphone to a Ring doorbell to most of you may know that it's very easy to access webcams, all AI driven, all driven by the Wi-Fi signal that you're on. So even Google Nest, your smart refrigerators, all using Internet of Things to connect, and those are wide open. There is no protection out and available for that. So we took this as, first of all, back to solve a problem with remote workers to protect their environment at home. And to do that, basically, then we are going to make sure that they're not vulnerable to pass along and allow hacking into your enterprise network side. The second part about this one is then the vulnerability. Nobody's looking at anything in the edge side at all. So if you can't see it, you can't protect against it. And what we did was create the solution so you could see it all and protect.
Very, very interesting. And in terms of the aspect of a standard for this remote workforce, how are you looking at that versus the actual enterprise solution?
Yeah, there are no standards, by the way, for anything that have to do with remote worker and home. So what we've done there is look at the edge territory. That's the space between the networks. And so although it's going maybe back to your enterprise or to other systems out there, it's really a wild, wild west. We got all these unsecured networks. We have public networks. Let's say a remote worker is traveling. It's pretty unsecured in a hotel room, or they go down to Starbucks. It's pretty unsecured. But at home, let's just take that one first. At home, our little device is very simple deployment. You literally hook a device into your router, and anybody can do it. It's 4 wires for power, and then to get into your router. You register your unit, your guard dog unit, with us on the web, and then it automatically deploys, and you're in business protecting everything in this network edge, this edge territory. And on top of that, everything let's go to the remote workers first, everything within that 5,000 square feet or whatever your Wi-Fi signal reaches, everything that is there, your kids playing the Xbox, your wife's smartphone, the iPad being used by your student over here, all those are exposed, but they're all protected. It's basically protection of the connection. And I want to go back and say this to you, because where did we come up with this? A very genius guy, Peter Bookman. Peter Bookman is the inventor of this. He is the father. He is the guy who started. He is the guy who created the entire virtual private network industry. So for the last 4 or 5 years, this is what he has worked on to protect this particular area of exposure and vulnerabilities, not just at home, but also the enterprise side.
And how is it different from other competitors out there like McAfee or Palo Alto Networks or CrowdStrike?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're device agnostic. We do not install device by device by device. This is installed in your router, or in the enterprise level, your server that is the key to your networks, to your Wi-Fi, to your cloud. So that's the very first thing, is it covers all devices. So as people, I give you this example. If I had a party here at my house, and this is my guard dog right here, I'll show you what it looks like. I'll put a slide up later if I can do that. But anyway, I'll just tell you, if you came to my house at a party and you brought your smartphone and somebody else brought an iPad, it would recognize every time a new device shows up. And because they're going to use my Wi-Fi to do this, it can't pass bad information and be a bad actor and infect my network as a result. So let me say one other thing that I think will help people understand why we can protect and do this. So we call it guard dog, catchy name, but it acts just like a dog. So any of you who have a dog at home, if the dog's worth a darn, you know that when it sees somebody walking down the street towards your house, instinctively it will bark. What guard dog does is cut you off before you ever get to my driveway. It proactively sees the threat coming, and it cuts it off before it ever gets to my driveway. And I hope that's just a good explanation. It's the only, when you ask me what's the differences, it's the only thing that proactively prohibits any kinds of, when it recognizes a threat, an exploit, something's going to occur, it stops it right there. So you cannot, this is the reason you cannot get infected. You can't get hacked.
So, you know, there's lots of other types of ways people get into systems, whether it's phishing, et cetera. We all have heard recently about the huge SolarWinds hack. Would your system be effective against something like that, a phishing technique, to stop it from coming through, or it doesn't work necessarily that way?
Well, that's going to be when you install it within your systems or whatever else. So it depends. That's a depending question on how did you deploy the update on that one. If you did it through Wi-Fi or a cloud application, probably would do that. If it was just a regular install, some of it may not. We are working on that to create a solution specifically for phishing. At this point in time, I can't answer that effectively because I don't know how people deploy the install in their systems.
Okay. How do you deal with the privacy issue for the remote workforce? It's, you know, it's, and is there a difference between a field worker versus a home remote worker type of setup?
Sure. First of all, we are working on for a totally remote one with a different app, something you would carry around on, not the device specific again, but something you would have to protect when you went into a public Wi-Fi, for example, which is totally wide open in most cases. Small businesses, they've got nothing in most cases to do this. At home, again, you're protected by the protection of your connection with your Wi-Fi signal. So, Michael, ask me the other part of that question again, please.
The aspect of privacy.
Yeah, got it. So we do not report exactly what a person's doing all day long. And I think that's very important for those working at home. Again, we do not look at where you go. We do not report where you go. So if you were doing some banking or you were playing Wikipedia, looking around and doing other things besides working, it's not going to report that back. So a worker is totally private. Same thing's true at work. If you're at work and we've deployed a guard dog unit in your server, it's not going to be looking and seeing what you're doing. Okay, it is totally private for the user, in other words.
Great. And when you say proactively protects, can you be more specific in what that exactly means?
Sure. When you're looking at all these vulnerabilities, and that's what we're doing all the time. Again, not only with all the different ways that people try and enter your system, but in the proactive part, again, let's go back to the dog barking, okay, coming down the street, and it reaches out. So we recognize the vulnerabilities. A lot of people do that. Our difference is we deploy a countermeasure in this one so that it never can enter. It just sees it coming. And the other parts that I think are very, very important here is how are these things this smart? So we have to go back to the use of artificial intelligence. And in this case, my guard dog here at home, okay, is hooked into all the other guard dogs that we've deployed, which are about 13,000 to date. It is all talking to our master dog in Salt Lake City, where these are made. And it is a constant, continuous microsecond update so that when my dog has learned of a new threat, or your dog has, or any place where it's been deployed, we have the largest repository that is going on all of the time, totally updating because there's new threats, new vulnerabilities, new software hacks, new ways to get into people all the time. Every one of the guard dogs instantly learns that along with no matter where it came from. And that extraordinary use of artificial intelligence also sets us apart. So there are no updates. It's going on all the time, updating all of the time. So your guard dog today will last a long time. I think that's very important as well. So let's go back to another point real quickly, which is deployment. It's the same for four different wires you hook up in a server. Deployment, once it's done, you could literally go through, you don't need one for every person in an office environment. You just need it. And again, it covers normally around 5,000 square feet. It's kind of a typical range of the Wi-Fi reach someplace. So if you're in a hotel, you might need to deploy every couple of floors, for example. Or if you're in a high-rise office building, every couple of floors, you might need to have another device. But going back to home, again, that protection of the connection occurs all of the time with privacy, and anybody can hook this up and do it.
Great. Can you tell us who's using it today, what industries you're currently deployed, et cetera?
Yeah, one of our most successful so far is Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau is an insurance company throughout the country. Farm Bureau has around, I think it's 400 offices, around average of four to six people per office. They use it in their headquarters. That was one of the very first tests that we did out there. It's interesting because now not only are they utilizing this for their employees who work in the office, but also for those remotely. And I think it's very interesting because you wouldn't think of Farm Bureau as a sales force, but they also are taking on the task to sell these, provide these to their customers. So they can actually distribute our devices. That's how strongly we believe in it. And I think that's a great endorsement. Let me give you another one. Healthcare is a really, really good application. Healthcare hacks, ransomware, pay 10 to 40 times higher cost to get their information back than anybody else. So I want to just give you a case study if I could. It's a smaller hospital in Texas. And in the first 3 weeks, we deterred over 14,000 attacks into that one, just in the first 3 weeks. In a hotel situation, the 2-month side, because we just started deploying these about a month and a half ago. We have a backlog of about 50,000 units. So I think that speaks very well to people who have tried it and like it a lot. In the hotel side, this is about an 80-room hotel. We over 2 months, I think that was something like 1,400 different vulnerabilities. Things are under attack all the time, but that we actually had to do something about, besides just measure, that deployed the proactive part and protected them. But it works in any industry. It's anywhere that Wi-Fi is exposed, and everybody's exposed someplace. And particularly now in this environment with more remote workers, but also the people just bringing stuff into work. Used to be taboo to do so, now it's kind of wide open.
Sure. What does Guard Dog cost, and have you been able to define the ROI for any of the current deployments?
Yes, we have really 2 versions. The enterprise version is roughly $1,200, about $200 a month. For the remote worker at home, it's $150 for the device, and then $25 a month. It's all subscription service to do that. And again, because there's no time very involved in deployment and updating all the time, I think that's pretty outstanding. So let me give you this kind of example, if I could. In the remote worker or in the enterprise level, I think most people in cybersecurity would know that even a junior kind of analyst who's analyzing traffic, he's monitoring, okay? You're looking at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year for that person. So the easiest thing I could say is for $25 a month, you protected 24/7. And that's important to say that, and 24/7. This is an automated solution because it's plug and play and it's on all of the time. You don't have to be watching. The unit's watching. And so this makes it very specifically different than anything else out there. And that return on investment, it's saying you want somebody who's not going to work 24/7, because nobody works 24 hours a day. If you have to have a second set of eyes on it, or you have other people employed to do no more than just monitor your network. And I think most of the statistics in cybersecurity are very robust that say it's taken 4 or 5 months a lot of times to know that you got hacked, and then another 4 or 5 months to do something about it, or even 6 months. I know in healthcare, the average is about 6 to 7 months to fix the problems. So it's a pretty easy return on investment to say if you don't get hacked in the first place, you don't have anything to fix. So for those of you who are working in security operations centers, you get the standard red, green, yellow kind of thing. But here's how it works for Guard Dog. When we see a threat, there's a red that shows up, but it's already deploying the countermeasures, and you could literally watch on the screen that particular device, that area, that particular because it's device specific. It's looking at everything on that network. You would watch it turn instantly from red to yellow or orange back. There's always going to be threats, so there's very little greens out there.
Very,
Another thing, I think the return on investment's like a cup of coffee every day. Would you sleep really well at night if you had protection like this?
It's like having many dogs at your house protecting you, huh?
It's a lot of dogs. Yeah.
Are there any other hardware competitors out there at this time that you're aware of, and what is actually patented in your technology?
Twofold question. We don't see any other hardware applications like this. Certainly, there's a lot of tools that use AI to gather up monitoring and to make reporting issues and something, but there's nothing like this that not only makes everything visible to our side so that it's protected automatically, it's on all the time. There's nothing out there that does this. There's nothing out there that's a simple deployment. There's nothing out there that almost all the different solutions require device-specific installations, software by software by software. So there's nothing out there that we really think are competitors. In fact, we in the entire Edge network, our mission really is to create the standard for remote workers because it covers all those devices they may utilize. It covers all those devices you may bring to the office. It covers everything that is in the office right now. So it's very different from that.
Yeah, BYOD is, there's been a huge increase, obviously, in that over the years. So I think that is an important aspect. There's a question from Russ here. With work at home, what are the value adds specifically compared to a McAfee or a Norton, et cetera? And again, I think we understand the perimeter protection from the Wi-Fi, but if there are downloads or other types of things, like how is it unique and different?
Well, everything is going to travel through your Wi-Fi network. When you're doing that download, it's coming through your Wi-Fi connection. So the connection of our protection of your connection is the first thing I would say. And again, because it's device agnostic and it's covering everything that utilizes your Wi-Fi signals at home all at once. Okay, again, the biggest thing at home is the exposure, not only just from the laptop I'm working on or the desktop with my office, it's all the other devices in my network. So it's covering all those simultaneously versus a McAfee, it's one by one by one by one. That's a huge difference.
Absolutely. In terms of the plug and play feature, how long does it actually take to set up? And can you give us a specific, a feel for what that looks like?
Sure. It's about 2 minutes. I'm literally going to plug in the power. I'm going to plug into the back of my router. Okay. If I need an extra line, for example, a splitter, because not all routers are the same with open ports, I may have to do that as well. So it's really just three, could be four, depending upon the router or server that you're using. That's it. So once you do that, the eyes on the guard dog here, which are right here, would light up red to begin with to show you its power. And then once I'm then instructed to go and go to the guard dog website, which is guarddog.ai. Okay. You would register your unit there, and then within 30 seconds, your unit would be green, saying it's been deployed and working. It takes about an hour for the learning to occur, not only about your own network, but to take all of this massive amount of learning in our repository to download to your specific device. So hook up, anybody can do it. Okay. In
Cool.
terms of how long it takes, about an hour, so that everything's robust and working.
Okay. So in terms of when you say IoT devices, do we know the risks that actually come from the other third-party devices versus, like you talk about the Ring doorbell or other types of IoT, even Amazon, I guess, and the connection that Amazon has or to your house? Can you talk about those specific threats and
Sure.
the risks associated with them?
Yeah, the latest stats show, for example, let me pick webcams. We're all doing Zoom stuff. We're using the webcam right now. That is one of the more vulnerable pieces. It's estimated that around 70% of all webcams have no protection at all. And so if I can grab off a signal any place as you don't even have to necessarily be a very sophisticated hacker to be able to do that, then I'm in your system. I know your Wi-Fi address. I know what's going on all the way, and I can infect you. In fact, there's a lot of horror stories about people even going to baby monitors, okay, and accessing data that way, and all of a sudden your child is exposed to anything that's going on, anything in your house, could be going through your webcam. And that's about 70% of webcams have no protection at all. So this is part of what we're trying to do, is to create that standard so that everything is protected, not by it's the fact it's a webcam, we have to do something specific for that, but it's for the protection of the connection.
Okay. And are there any stats also on remote workforce infecting network systems as they log in, just to get an idea of exactly how that has changed, as COVID has pushed so many people to a remote position?
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff on this one. So the thing I'll tell you there is the hacking, the entering of stuff, the threats aimed at remote work or those at home are up about 60% since during 2020. Overall, hacking and ransomware threats to the enterprise system up about 40%, but it's certainly much easier. So in the more sophisticated schemes, it's easier to begin to gain access to the larger systems by going to your home, because you're much more unsophisticated there in terms of your protections. And remember this, it's all not just if you can't see it, okay, you can't protect it. Because we see it all, including all those Internet of Things devices in the edge network here, then we can protect against it. That's the hugest difference. A lot of people can see things. A lot of software companies see things. A McAfee sees it all. And they can do certain blockages, but nothing like this. And again, it's only looking at very specific things, a much more limited area where we're looking at that entire territory, that edge network, that entire edge side. And that is the biggest difference out there. And it's only possible through AI. Let me answer your other question about patents and stuff. We have 5 patents in play. It's really interesting. They're not around cybersecurity. It's about the use of how we utilize artificial intelligence to both recognize those threats and then the deployment of something to do something about it to block those. And so it's we will have more coming as we deploy more applications in the future. There will be at some point in time a phone app that you carry around so that wherever you are, if you're in the airport and it's unprotected, very vulnerable, you'll be protected because of what you got on your device. So those become more device specific, but our thing is to protect a whole lot, everything that we can see, which is everything that utilizes your Wi-Fi, both in the office as well as at home. That protection, that's the huge difference there. And that's where our patents are really all around the AI part.
Fantastic. Okay, that was really terrific, Travis. I want to thank you for your time today. I think we have if there are any additional questions, if the attendees could please put them in the chat area at this point in time. We'll give everybody a minute or so to see if they want to ask any last questions. As you know,
I will just say this, if I can interrupt as well. I have a very short presentation if anybody would like that. I can send that to you and you can hand out to people if you'd like.
That would be great.
I would encourage those. We're still a new company, even with what we've got. We'll fulfill those 50,000 unit backlog by the end of February. We have all the money we need. We're going full speed ahead very fast. And again, upgrades every day, just from more that we've learned in an automatic side. So I would just tell you, go to guarddog.ai. There's some up there. It's not the most robust side because we're still building, but we will have a lot of case studies. That's what people want to see, because everybody believes my industry is different than your industry. Well, it's not when we talk about Wi-Fi connections. Okay, so visit there, learn some more, learn all about Peter. Peter Bookman's an extraordinary guy, and there's
where is it? What is his role on your team? Is he
he is the chief inventor, the innovation guy, the CEO. And so we only have about 17 people in total because we don't need any more. It's really interesting. We've had a pretty easy time to sell things. I am looking for part of my role is to find more distribution out there because we can't get to everybody, but we've been very successful in a very short time period. And our thing is always speed. We know we got to go fast. somebody will come out there and do something similar, but right now we're at, so we're going to exploit that as much as possible.
Fantastic. Okay, so I see no more questions came in. I want to thank everybody for attending our first M Talk series. As you know, it's a rapid fire presentation, a quick half hour to learn about bleeding edge technologies. And I think we certainly found one today. So I can't thank you enough, Travis, for your time, and all of our attendees as well.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everybody.